Hi, I'm Joe Epstein at the Carlsbad Veterans Memorial Park in front of the Bataan Monument. Dedication ceremony today for the monument. Bataan is very, very significant to Carlsbad and to New Mexico because a number of the New Mexico National Guard, 135 folks from Carlsbad and surrounding areas, went to Bataan in 1941. And the Japanese, of course, attacked right there the day after the Pearl Harbor was attacked. And the New Mexico National Guard was they were put into the military, the U.S. Army, and they were defending Bataan. They actually slowed down. Their defense was so tenacious that they slowed down the advance of the Japanese. But eventually, on April the 9th, 2012, in 1941, the 70th anniversary today, April the 9th, 2012, the dedication is taking place. But a number of folks went off. 135 people from this area went, 55 died, 80 came back. So very, very significant to Carlsbad, and that's why it is our second major monument. We also have all kinds of folks here who came from out of town because they are relatives of Bataan veterans to be with us today. And we've also got a number of recognitions around Carlsbad at the museum, on the Bataan Bridge, down at Riverwalk Park, all kinds of things remembering Bataan and the sacrifice that the Carlsbad veterans and the veterans of New Mexico made to that effort. Please join us now in our dedication ceremony. Thank you.
Philippines in 1944. On December 8, 1941, the Japanese attacked Clark Field in the Philippines the day after Pearl Harbor. And it was the 200th and the 515th Coastal Defense Artillery of the New Mexico National Guard who defended Clark. The Japanese didn't win as quickly as they thought they would because those ragtag New Mexico guardsmen wouldn't give up. There are more than 500 New Mexicans buried in Manila, the National Cemetery there, probably more than any other American cemetery outside the continental United States. The final resting place of our New Mexicans in the Philippines is a very beautiful place. It's respectful of the sacrifice of the New Mexicans who served there and their families. I want to thank all of you for coming here today to remember the service of so many thousands of New Mexicans who served in the Second World War and in all of our wars. New Mexico had more prisoners of war per capita in World War II than any other state in the nation. There wasn't a community or a parish who wasn't touched by Bataan. Thank you all for your service and your sacrifice. May God bless you all.
We also have Beverly Allen from Senator Bingham's office. Oh, from Senator Udall's office, I'm sorry. Get it mixed up here.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you for allowing me to read a message from Senator Udall today. I'm honored to join you in remembrance and gratitude today. The soldiers of Bataan gave America something we needed as much as we required guns or tanks. They offered us an example. On the 70th anniversary and every day, we should remember it today as a place where America's fighting spirit showed itself to the world. These legendary warriors inspired our nation then, and they inspire us still. For 7 decades, the Western world has enjoyed the freedom that the Bataan veterans helped to win. For 7 decades, our world has been more peaceful because of the sacrifices they made. And for 7 decades, those men have not received the honor that is their due. In recognition of their sacrifice, I have made it my mission to see that the defenders of Bataan receive the Congressional Gold Medal. In order for a medal to be awarded, a bill that I have introduced needs the support of 290 members of the House and 67 members of the Senate, which is quite a feat. I'm proud to report that the entire New Mexico delegation is behind the effort, and we're working to recruit the support of our colleagues in Congress. This is an honor these brave veterans deserved years ago, and I will continue pushing it to see that it is bestowed. For the thousands of soldiers who were surrendered to enemy forces on April 9th, 1942, the years that have passed since have been filled with memories of what occurred that day and in the hundreds of days that followed. Starvation, torture, forced work, captivity, death. But throughout the 70 years that have followed, the events of Bataan have inspired other ideas for the rest of us: bravery, sacrifice, and an unbreakable demonstration of courage. I thank you for your work and today to honor our heroes. As time passes and many survivors are no longer with us, we pledge today to remember them every day, to share their stories with our grandchildren, and to honor the peace they helped bring us. They are true patriots, and we are forever in their debt. Sincerely, Senator Tom Udall.
We also have Lynn Ditto, Senator Bingham's office.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today. Before I read the message from Senator Bingham, I need to say a couple of things more on a personal note. I've been with Senator Bingham for it'll be 30 years in January, and once upon a time I was a caseworker. It was my privilege to be able to work with 2 of the Bataan survivors. Of course, they have since passed on, but it was eye-opening, heart-wrenching. I don't know what else to say. To work with them, to listen to their horrendous stories of their internment and how they were treated. The majority of them, I guess, wound up with beriberi because of the malnutrition. And one in particular that I worked with, they were both from this area, wound up losing all the toes in one foot and almost all of his toes on the other foot. But it is indeed a pleasure to be here today because of my own personal interest, background in this, and to read this message from Senator Bingham. Thank you for inviting me to the dedication ceremony of the Bataan Memorial Monument of Carlsbad. Let me join everyone here in extending my sincere appreciation to the Carlsbad Veterans Memorial Park Committee, the City of Carlsbad, and Joanna Seiberg, the daughter of Charlie James, the last area survivor of the Bataan Death March, who passed away last year. Thank you for your work in ensuring that our Bataan heroes' legacy will live on. Today is the 70th anniversary of the fall of Bataan and the ensuing Bataan Death March. Battery F and 135 men for the 200th Coastal Artillery came from Eddy County. 80 men were liberated and 55 died. As we mark this solemn anniversary, today we are humbled to honor the heroism and excruciating sacrifice of these men. Symbolized by this wonderful testament with the names of all 135 men, this monument plays an even more important role by educating all of us about their sacrifices. In the Senate, we continue to fight to recognize the bravery of those who defended Bataan by granting them the Congressional Gold Medal, and I hope we're successful this year. Today I join every New Mexican in paying tribute to those whose pain we will never forget. Again, thank you for being here to help celebrate this extraordinary legacy of preservation and bravery. Sincerely, Jeff Bingaman, U.S. Senator. And thank you.
We are now going to have an invocation by Chaplain Bill Prue.
You may remain seated. Let us pray. God, we come to you in thanks for your many blessings upon this nation. We thank you for the freedom that we enjoy here. And we thank you for those men and women who have served in the armed forces to preserve our freedoms. And especially today, we remember those who gave their lives in defense of that freedom. We ask for your blessing upon their family members. We also ask for your continued protection and blessing over our men and women in uniform this day. Amen.
Thank you. If you would now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is behind the tree right here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. It's now my pleasure to introduce Joanna Seberg. Joanna was born and raised in Carlsbad, graduate of Carlsbad High School and New Mexico State University, Carlsbad. She and her husband, Jerry, are the parents of 3 children and 6 grandchildren. She's an instructional assistant for Carlsbad Municipal Schools at the Early Childhood Education Center. Her parents, Charlie and Lucille Davis James, were lifelong residents of Carlsbad. In 2011, Joanna accepted on her family's behalf the Pioneer Family Award presented by the Carlsbad Foundation. Community involvement includes membership in the Daughters of the American Revolution, Southeastern New Mexico Historical Society, and the City of Carlsbad Cemetery Board. As an active member of St. Edward Catholic Church, she is a Catholic daughter and secular Franciscan. The only New Mexico member of the International Statue of Liberty Club, she is an avid collector who enjoys giving presentations to schools and organizations. She has in the past served on the boards of Relay for Life, Class Act, and has been a cancer support group facilitator for the American Cancer Society. In memory of her father, a World War II veteran, she supports efforts in honoring Bataan veterans, speaking to student and civics groups. She is a board member of the New Mexico Guardians of Our Heritage and member of the National Descendants Group of the Defenders of Bataan and Corregidor. She participates annually, one of these times I'm going to get out there, in the Bataan Memorial Death March Marathon at White Sands Missile Range. Faithfully marching in Veterans and Memorial Day parades, each Memorial Day, she joins our community in placing hundreds of flags on veterans' graves. So if you would help me to welcome Joanna Seberg, and Joanna, besides the remarks, is going to be recognizing all of the relatives of Bataan veterans also.
I am thankful to be asked to join the Veterans Memorial Committee to work with them on this dedication today. Their vision has been to honor all veterans for their service, and the dedication of this monument today is one step further in their goal. I welcome all our Bataan families and friends. Posted are the names of Eddy County men on Bataan, as well as pictures of tribute around our city. The Green Street Bridge, which we cross heading east out of Carlsbad, was named the Bataan Bridge in 1942. Not formally dedicated until the 40th anniversary of the fall of Bataan in 1982, the plaque you see today was placed that day and has since been restored. It is located on the northeast side of the bridge. Take notice as you cross the bridge today of the striking, newly hung Bataan logos in the center median. Today, on the 70th anniversary of the fall of Bataan, we are all here to honor a decorated group of veterans. But what were the circumstances they faced on that fateful day in April 1942? During World War II, Eddy County's contribution to the war in the Pacific was significant. More than 100 Carlsbad men were fighting in the Philippines, with many more from Artesia and surrounding communities, including Loving, Malaga, and Otis. This regiment from Eddy County would be the 200th Coast Artillery Anti-Aircraft Battery F. Other units from around the state came from Albuquerque, Clovis, Deming, Gallup, Santa Fe, Silver City, and Taos. Other branches of the military were represented, including civilians. Arriving in Manila in September 1941, the 200th had joined other units of National Guardsmen sent to aid the Philippine Army, which had become part of the U.S. military forces a few months earlier. On December 8th, just hours after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the Japanese attacked Clark Field, the biggest, though unpaved, airfield in all of Asia. Within 24 hours, a modern, well-equipped Japanese army began their land invasion. In late December of 41, after repeated bombing of Clark Field, about 500 men were detached from the 200 to form the 515th. They were sent to protect Manila. The 515th was America's first war-borne regiment. The two regiments were the first to fire and among the last to retreat. They were the only Allied units to remain together until they were surrendered. With the air power destroyed, their shipping lines cut off, outdated equipment, they soon ran out of food, medicine, and ammunition. They fought valiantly for 4 months, though starving and suffering from jungle diseases. Historians say that New Mexico's troops helped delay the Japanese long enough for the United States Navy and their allies to rebuild, gain strength, and resistance in the Pacific. Fighting with no reinforcements, outnumbered 10 to 1, they were surrounded by the enemy. Finally, after fighting in positions up and down the island, their backs were against the sea on the southern tip of Bataan. They were surrendered by their commanding officer on April 9, 1942. The troops on the island of Corregidor, just a few miles off the main island, held on until May 6th. So on this day, 70 years ago, Bataan fell. The infamous death march, the inhumane treatment, which included beatings, starvation, diseases, hell ships, inadequate prison camps, were followed by slave labor. From that time until the war's end in August 1945, many of those who survived these atrocities, like my dad, had been prisoners of the Japanese for 42 months, 3.5 years, 1,251 long days. In all, Daddy had been gone from Carlsbad for almost 5 years. The 200th and 515th had given their very best in the defense of the Philippines. They were given the U.S. Presidential Citation 3 times in a 4-month period, more than any other U.S. Army during World War II. The New Mexico Bataan Medal, presented to them in December of 1946, was described as physical evidence of the love and esteem of the citizens of New Mexico for the valiant men, members of the New Mexico National Guard. They had brought great honor to their state by their bravery, their loyalty, and their devotion to duty. At war's end, just half of the 1,800 plus men in the 200th and 515th from New Mexico returned home. Today, fewer than 30 survivors are alive in New Mexico. While some found it difficult to express their experiences, before his death last year, my dad shared many stories with me. I will close with his words. The support of others from New Mexico was vital to my survival many times. We all did what we could to help our men who stumbled or fell on the march. You could hear 200th, 515th, and Though hungry and exhausted, we did our best to get to them, pick them up, and all keep moving to avoid certain death. Their bonds would remain strong throughout their lifetimes, sharing memories with each other and many of us here. When honored as heroes, Daddy would tell me, no, the real heroes were those who didn't make it back. We will always remember, they will not be forgotten. Now I have the great honor of introducing, recognizing Bataan family members here with us today. And I would like to add that I am so proud to represent them all, and that's what I truly feel like I do. I am your representative. So, first of all, I would like to recognize the widow of Adolfo Hernandez, Manuelita Hernandez. Mary Florick, daughter of Marvin Bailey. Back in the back, thank you. Beth Ackman and Donna Estes, daughters of Frank Forney and their family. Stand up. Robin Boyd, daughter of Bob Malone. Kay Zollner, daughter of Walter Cornell and Georgia Owens, granddaughter. Kay and Georgia also served on the New Mexico Guardians Board with me. Barry Brunt, son of Bill Brunt and his wife. Charlie Bunch, brother of Paul Bunch. Helen Griego, daughter of Mike Poulos and her husband. David Leos, uncle of Frank Martin. And Mario Salinas' wife Helen is a niece of Frank Martin, who is also my great uncle and cousin of Charlie James. My husband, Jerry Seberg, son-in-law of Charlie James. Is there anyone here that... Freddie Martin, son of Frank Martin. Good to have you, Freddie. And Rudy McGill, who is the nephew and cousin of Charlie James and Frank Martin. Anyone else? Yes? Okay, also relatives of Frank Martin. Yeah. Good to have all of you here. And I have one more. My dear friend Marcela Pangan Paule Martinez, who is a native of the Philippines. Her father, Ponciano Paule, was a sergeant in the Philippine Army, and her grandfather, Pedro Pangan, was a civilian who was captured by the Japanese and forced to walk on the death march. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, John. The Honor Guard will fire a gun salute as the dedication action of the monument. So at this point, I would like to, by the way, we have New Mexico National Guard here, and obviously the New Mexico National Guard was the source of the Bataan veterans, so we recognize the New Mexico National Guard also. Thank you for being here. The gun salute will conclude this dedication ceremony, but you're invited to remain and look at all of the additional things that we have put in, commemorative bricks, and by the way, we do have forms for ordering a commemorative brick if you haven't done that yet. We also have plaques down along the walkway as well. So stay, Finally, the committee members will be here to answer any questions and have a look around at all of these symbols of Carlsbad around Carlsbad, Bataan around Carlsbad. So with that, I call the National Guard to attention for the gun salute. Honor Guard, and hush.
Ready. Aim. Fire. Load. Aim. Fire. Load. Aim. Fire. Forward. On. Back flash. Hey. Freeze. Set. On. Forward. On.
Thank you to the Honor Guard. This concludes our dedication ceremony. Please stay and have a look around. Sergeant Walden. And the committee members will be here. Hi, Joe Epstein, the Carlsbad Veterans Memorial Park Committee, and we just had a wonderful Bataan Monument dedication ceremony here at the park. We were very pleased to have a number of relatives of Bataan veterans coming in from out of town, as well as a number of them that are still here in Carlsbad. And one of the folks with me right now is Robin Boyd, the daughter of Bob Malone, who was here in Carlsbad but moved up to Rio Rancho a few years ago as he was ailing. But Robin's with me right now. Hi, Robin. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, what did you think about the ceremony?
Oh, the ceremony was wonderful, and Joanna had me in tears. And my father just passed away at 95 years old about 3 weeks ago, so everything's real fresh. But
yes,
I remember the stories. And
right. Now we're sitting right in front of the Bataan Monument, which was dedicated. How do you like the monument?
I think it's wonderful. I really do. I think the picture is just beautiful, and I've never been to the Philippines, but I'd really like to go someday and see.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. So now, how long was your dad up with you in Rio Rancho? When did he leave Carlsbad?
I can't remember the date, but he was 88, and he passed away when he was 95. So he was in Rio Rancho for 7 years, and I live in Albuquerque, so I was able to be there twice a week at least.
Excellent. Back in 2001, a picture was taken of the 4 survivors of Bataan still alive and in Carlsbad, and your dad was one of them, and then Marvin Bailey, Chino Bobbin, and Charlie James.
Right.
And Joanna, of course, the daughter of Charlie James, did a tremendous job, and had tears in your eyes.
Everyone's eyes, yeah.
Yes, yes, she did a fabulous job. Does a lot of work, for the
she does.
Guardians.
She really does a lot more than she needs to, but it's just wonderful that she did this.
Yeah. she's quite the historian on Bataan
That's what it
as well.
takes, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, well, was there anything else that you had that you wanted to speak about?
Well, I think the reason why my father lasted till he was 95 years old was he was just a fierce survivor. And he was with his brother, but the stories that they tell and the things that they did to survive and were just, always fascinating to us as kids. But his favorite thing to do was tell you the funny things that happened. And I can't really think of anything off the top of my head right now, but there were still, they were still human beings,
Right.
and they had their funny moments.
Yeah.
But
it
was
was
difficult.
probably difficult to have a funny moment in Bataan, whether it's on the Death March or a hell ship.
He
or
never wanted to remember
POW.
the really brutal things,
Yeah.
and he especially didn't want to tell us kids.
Yes, right. Well, very happy that you could be with
Thank
us.
you so much.
Thanks for much coming from Rio Rancho,
Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. Hello again. Here at the Carlsbad Veterans Memorial Park at the Bataan Monument ceremony, the dedication of the Bataan Monument. And we spoke to Robin Boyd, the daughter of Bob Malone, and now I'm very proud to have with me Joanna Seberg, daughter of Charlie James. Joanna,
Hello. It's good
how
to,
did
good
you
to be here.
how did you enjoy that ceremony?
I was very pleased with the turnout, especially from Bataan families and friends. I think we had a probably, what would you say, 40?
Oh, a good 40.
At least 40 or
Right.
more Bataan family members here.
Right, which is fabulous. We had 50 chairs, and
Okay.
all the chairs were just about full.
Good,
So
good.
I think your estimate is good. Now, you had some words to say about Bataan, and then you introduced everybody. But some of the things that you recounted about Bataan were really super. You're quite the historian of Bataan. What did you think about the displays? What do you think about the monument?
I think the monument is beautiful. I like the design because it gives a little bit of history on the design itself about
Right.
the march,
Right.
the different points along the march. The march itself was, my dad always said, between 60 and 70 miles depending on point of capture.
Right.
So if you were on one side of the island, you didn't walk as far, but if you were back on the other side, you had to come all the way around the tip. So this monument shows that road,
Right.
and I think it's great.
Right.
I'm all for anything that's going to share history.
Right. Now, we just got this display up on the Bataan Bridge and a renewed Bataan Bridge sign itself.
Yes, and I love it. And
Yeah.
I stopped and looked at the plaque. I was there in 1982 when Governor Bruce King came and dedicated the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
They had discovered that the original plaque, wooden plaque that had been put up in 1942 had either been lost, come down in a flood, or whatever.
Right.
So they formally dedicated it then, and now it's been restored, and it's really, really beautiful.
Yeah, really beautiful. Now, we've got a whole number of displays around Carlsbad of Bataan also.
Right.
The Bataan Dam, which we're not very far away from here.
Right. Right.
But then the bench down on the Riverwalk also.
The bench is on the east side of the river, near the southern end of the convention center, and it is dedicated to the 200th and 515th.
Yeah. Now, why is it there? Isn't there a story about why it's there?
Yes, yes. I had my dad go with me, and we kind of scouted the area, because I told him that the bench was going to be put up somewhere and we could choose where we wanted it to be. Well, it didn't take Daddy long to decide that was the spot, because he said it looked like a peninsula, just like Bataan, because that area, you'll see it kind of juts out a little
Right.
bit, and he thought it was perfect.
Yeah, excellent. Now, you're involved with a whole batch of organizations. You were talking about that in your words, your speech during the ceremony. What are some of those? And can people get back in touch with you?
Yes, we have a newly formed descendants group in the state of New Mexico. 2 years ago, the Bataan survivors had their last state conference or convention, and they had voted prior to that to basically disband because of their dwindling numbers and inability to travel. So they passed the torch to us. They gave us some seed money, which we have set up a scholarship fund, and our first scholarship will be awarded this fall.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
So
Super.
we're really excited about that.
Super.
And we also have a new educational program. We received a grant from the National Descendants Group to create Bataan in a Box. And that is going to be sent out to educators across New Mexico. We'll start out with middle and high school, and it'll be educational materials to teach students about Bataan history.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that we've got down here is the banner that you take on the marches with you.
Yes, yes. That Remember Bataan banner I had made about 3 or 4 years ago. I had participated in parades through the years because of my involvement with the Daughters of the American Revolution. And I saw all the veterans groups, and I got to thinking, well, why not Bataan?
Sure.
So I
Yeah.
started
Excellent.
making calls, and we got a really good representation of Bataan families, and so we carry the banner, and we have also made individual signs that we all carry with our own survivors' names.
That's super, super. Now, your dad has a commemorative brick down here also, right?
He sure does.
Yeah.
He does. He has a commemorative brick, and I might add that right next to him is my mother's brother and my mother's sister. So it's just a wonderful collection of all different branches of service
Right.
members.
Yeah, the significant thing about this park is that even though we have a lot of combat symbols here, this park is really for all veterans honorably served, living and deceased, and the commemorative bricks are for all of those. And that is a $35 brick. And we don't do individual bricks, by the way. We do those big slabs. So grass will never be growing up. They'll never be tipping. No one can ever pry up a brick and throw it in the river like some types of people like to do from time to time. And those can be ordered from the Carlsbad Veterans Memorial Park Committee. So if there's anybody that wants to buy one of those bricks, send them my way, and we'll get them suited up with a brick.
I was very pleased when that opportunity came because, like I mentioned, my uncle and my aunt were Marines, and they have no family members here.
Right.
And my uncle had no children, and so it was a really wonderful way to remember them.
Yes.
And I'm always focused on my dad,
Right.
but we have other family members that were in the military,
Right.
so we can just involve everyone.
Okay. Anything else that you want to add?
Back to the Descendants group, we have, like I said, we are newly formed, and we are looking for not only descendants of Bataan, but anyone who's interested in keeping their story alive. We have a website called guardiansofbataan.org, and you can find out contact information there, or always contact me here in
Right.
Carlsbad.
Okay. Joanna, thanks very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Joe.
it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.